Hey, hey, hey. Happy Thursday. Come on in. Pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, incredibly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard. Tonight is Thursday, August 17th, 2023. This is live stream 953. If this is your first time joining me, let me point out, super casual around here. We just hang out talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and then I share a live first look, or every once in a while, a review of a tabletop game. And that's what we'll be doing tonight, is a first look. That's right, I will be diving on in and taking a look at the boxed set for Rultmoork from AAW Games. And this is a hefty box here, folks. So I am chomping at the bit to dive in and take a peek at this 5e adventure. So stay tuned. Of course, keep in mind, like I said, super casual. We are not engaged in rocket surgery or anything along those lines. So it's just games, folks, just having fun. So should mention, if you're tuning in for the live first look, it's probably going to be about 35, maybe 40 minutes before we start taking a look at Rultmoork. So if you are watching live, kick back, relax, enjoy yourself. Hopefully you're a subscriber. You can take part in chat. I'll talk about that in just a moment. But if you happen to tune in about 30 minutes or more after the show ends, there will be timestamps. So if you're impatient and you just got to get to that first look, you'll be able to use timestamps to jump past the tabletop gaming news. Although I've got cool news tonight. I've got cool news every night. But if you need to, you can jump past it. Of course, depending on what device you might be watching this on, those timestamps might be right there in the timeline of the video right in front of you as well. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more that you won't find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Lastly, this is a live stream, so that means there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. Although I guess right now I'm probably the most unusual person involved with this stream. And you do have to be a subscriber to the channel for at least 48 hours before you can take part in chat. It's another way that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, maybe you've got a question, a comment, maybe there's something about Rultmoork you want to get a closer look at, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. First out the gate tonight is, well, I don't know. Stray Kismet commented, but then they retracted the comment. So I don't know if they're first out the gate. I think I'm going to have to give it to Kathy Evans. Kathy Evans is the first out the gate tonight in chat. Once again, Stray Kismet is with us, as is the Motor City Madman himself. Yes, the Madman, one of our chat moderators, is hanging with the gang. as is Testy Trekkie Scott B. Smith, another of our chat moderators, Flaming Huron, from across the pond, is in the house, as is Kevin King and Jack Hanks. So welcome, everybody. Good to have you all hanging out with me tonight. Hopefully you're looking forward to diving on into Rultmoork as much as I am. Yes. All right, so we've got a big show tonight, so let's jump right on into the news. Because arriving this fall, in fact, I believe it's a Spiel 2023 release from Czech Games Edition, is Kutná Hora, the City of Silver. And this is looking pretty interesting. And I must say, we don't see a ton of releases from Czech Games Edition. We see like maybe 1 or 2 new games a year. But let's talk about this one. Join other ambitious guild leaders in mining and developing the famous City of Silver during its period of rapid economic growth and expansion in the 14th century. From the first discovery of silver near the Cistercian monastery to the construction of Kutná Hora, which quickly became one of the most important cities in Central Europe. Kutná Hora, the City of Silver, is a historical city-building Euro game for 2 to 4 players that features a real-life supply and demand experience in which every action you take has an impact on the game's dynamic economic systems. In each round, players take turns selecting actions from a hand of double-sided cards to engage strategic plans like mining, purchasing plots of land on which to build, gaining permits, raising buildings for their affiliated guilds, gaining profit from their production, and of course, working toward the construction of St. Barbara's Cathedral. The asymmetrical nature of each player's available guilds makes for highly interactive rounds in which each decision impacts the economy and other players in interesting ways as they expand their mines and build infrastructure across a shared board. Mine ore and smelt it into a fortune of silver for expanding this beautiful historic city. But take care to balance your personal goal advancement with the need to further the city's growth. Everything is connected, and sometimes the path to personal victory relies on the prosperity of the many. Kutná Hora, the City of Silver, is for 2 to 4 players, ages 13 and up, plays in around 1 to 2 hours. It's going to carry an MSRP of $59.95. When it arrives, once again, as I mentioned, I believe this is a Spiel release, so that will be October. Not sure when we're going to see it in the US. Usually Spiel releases within a month or so. Every once in a while, we do see companies that don't release their Spiel games in English until the following year. I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think we're probably looking at a late fall release for this one. And once again, pretty interesting. And as Testy Trekkie says, I'll need to check this out. I was wondering if anybody was going to jump on that one. I like Czech Games Editions. What is it? Ruins of Arnak? Is it? I know it's Arnak. Off the top of my head, I think it's Ruins of Arnak. I think that's an excellent game. It was one of my favorite games of the year when it came out. So once again, this looks pretty impressive. I like the art style as well. So let's talk about some role-playing game news, because earlier today, Rowan, Rook, and Decard launched a Kickstarter to fund the horror role-playing game Eat the Reich. Here's the scoop. Eat the Reich is a tabletop role-playing game in which you, a vampire commando, are coffin dropped into occupied Paris and must cut a bloody swath through Nazi forces en route to your ultimate goal, drinking all of Adolf Hitler's blood. You heard that correct. It's written by Grant Howitt and illustrated by Will Kirkby. This over-the-top, ultra-violent game is designed to be played from beginning to end in 1 to 3 sessions of carnage, blood magic, meaningful flashbacks, and hundreds upon hundreds of extremely dead fascists. It tells one story, tells it loud, and it tells it brilliantly. Think Wolfenstein crossed with Danger 5, and you're not far off the mark. Eat the Reich is a lavishly illustrated, beautifully written 72-page rule book, and it has everything you need to get started. It's a quick-to-learn D6 dice pool system. It's the Havoc engine, which encourages creative violence. Enemy reinforcement rules that keep the vampire invaders on their toes, as well as pre-generated iconic characters with room to level up. Gruesome augmented Übermenschen, get to drink their blood to level up. And non-accurate maps of Paris with lots of location details and ideas for fun things to destroy. There is a short Kickstarter video. We'll point out there's some flashing images. There's actually a warning at the beginning of the video. So if you have an issue with that, you may want to look away. You could just listen in. But let's give the video a peek.
This is our final move. You are the Allies' last hope. The Nazis won't go down without a fight. You have one mission. Drink all of Hitler's blood. Give 'em hell.
Oh, it's not coming soon to Kickstarter. It is out on Kickstarter. In fact, the project for Eat the Reich is already funded. In fact, it funded in 31 minutes. You can reserve a copy of this 72-page book. I believe it's in hardcover. And I think it's digest sized. Just taking a guess. But you can reserve a copy for a pledge of approximately $32. Exchange rate, yes, across the pond. Or you can score just the PDF for a pledge of approximately $16 through September 14th. Expected delivery of the PDF seems to be right after the project run is over, and the physical books are expected in December. So this must be completely done, good to go. They're just using Kickstarter almost like order fulfillment. You know, how many copies are we going to print up? So gotta say, this looks kind of interesting. I'll be the first to admit I'm not always super big on role-playing games that are designed just for like one thing, and it's like, you know, one session or a handful of sessions. But my interest is piqued. It is piqued. And I have to say, I get a kick out of these images of the vampires. There's the one vampire, I think she's French, and she's a chain-smoking vampire. And you can see they're in their caskets. And in her coffin is this ashtray that's just overloaded with cigarette butts. There it is, right there. On the right, next to her head. I saw that, I just kind of laughed. So, very, very interesting. So, Tessie Trekkie said, punch Nazis? Yeah. Bite Nazis? Oh, yeah. And yes, the madman points out, yes, it is Ruins of Arnak. Sometimes I have so many games rolling around in my head. It's kind of like, Bear Beard is joining us in chat. I believe this is a first-time visit. Welcome aboard. And I know Tessie Trekkie said they have to stop feeding the owl bear, so I guess you can't feed Bear Beard either. So keep that in mind. Anthony Good is with us, as is Shaz, hanging out in chat. And Tessie Trekkie says, and backed. There you go. Boom. Speaking of Rowan, Rook, and Decard, on Tuesday's show, we will be diving on into Die RPG. I will remind you of that later on as we wrap up, but that is slated for us to take a peek at on Tuesday. Moving right along, currently Metis Creative, I think that's how it's pronounced, is teamed up with Bundle of Holding to offer a special deal on the Historica Arcanum 5e setting. I've got the deets on the deal. Adventurer. This Historica Arcanum bundle presents the, yes, you guessed it, Historica Arcanum tabletop historical fantasy role-playing campaign settings from Turkish publisher Metis Creative for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition and compatible systems. The Historica Arcanum timeline spans many centuries. In the alternate 13th century of Empires of the Silk Road, magic is dangerous, unstable, and tightly controlled. North of the Silk Road, the Khanate of the eternal blue sky is rising. To the west, impoverished crusader kings covet the road's treasures. Between them, in the Sultanate of Persia, the warlock Hassan Sabah and his Hashashin order, you know, where they got the word assassin, pit kingdoms against one another in a deadly game. Then jump forward to the alternate 19th century Istanbul, not Constantinople, of the city of Crescent. In this capital of the crumbling Ottoman Empire, rooftop chases to top coffee parlors lead adventurers to bustling bazaars, through mighty palaces and down to deadly catacombs. Metis Creative actually fills out the timeline still further in their new Kickstarter, Era of the Crusades. I think that is going on right now. I believe that is the reasoning behind this bundle, is to provide some awareness of this setting. This all-new offer presents the entire Historica Arcanum line for an unbeatable bargain price. In magical counterparts to real landmarks, meeting historical figures and fighting legendary monsters, you'll solve mysteries, intrigue among factions, and shape the arcane history of the Historica Arcanum universe. Hide your inhuman features, whisper incantations, delve ancient ruins to uncover artifacts of raw power, and plot the downfall of empires. For just $17.95, you'll get all 3 5e source books and campaigns in the Historica Arcanum collection, which has a retail value of $70, as DRM-free PDFs, including the complete Empires of the Silk Road campaign setting, along with the maps, tokens, wallpapers, and soundtrack in its digital library. The full-length Silk Road campaign, Herald of Rain, and the Istanbul City Sourcebook, The City of Crescent, along with its map pack, wallpaper pack, and soundtrack album. These savings will run through September 4th. There is no charity that is benefiting from this bundle, but I have got to say, I was not aware of this setting, and it looks pretty impressive. The artwork alone looks top-notch. Now, I'll be the first to point out, I know absolutely nothing about this publisher, but looks pretty impressive. And $17.95 to jump on board to get everything that's currently out there for this, even though it's for 5e. Come on, you can always mess around with utilizing this for other systems. So I wanted to share this. So Jack Hank says, I like that setting, but try buying hard copies. The shipping cost is crazy. Jack says they've got a PDF of the first book. Nice. Scott B. Smith says, not Constantinople. Why did Constantinople get the works? Oh, it's Istanbul. That's what happened when Constantinople fell. In fact, usually the fall of Constantinople for many historians is what they feel is the end of the Middle Ages and the actual beginning of the Renaissance period. At least nowadays they do. Although the funny thing is, Middle Ages is such an oddball term. Middle of what? It's like, come on. Tessie Trekkie says, as a Europa Universalis, why the hell did I pronounce it incorrectly? Fan, they are intrigued. Yes. And last week could have gotten EU4 absolutely free over at Epic Games. This week's Epic Games offerings, although I think Black Book was supposed to be pretty good. Next week, don't miss out because it is Homeworld Deserts of Carrick, which is free. And they just did the remastered edition of Homeworld, I think, what was it, like 3 weeks ago? Because we've got Homeworld 3 on the horizon. Yes. I love that series. I did not play Deserts of Carrick, though, so I will be grabbing that one. Anyway, back to the bundle. Give it a peek. Like I said, this looks pretty impressive. So Jack will have to tell us what he thinks of that first book since they have the PDF. Final news piece now available from Marvel Comics is the core book for the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game. Here's the lowdown. Welcome to the Marvel Multiverse. Take on the roles of Marvel's most famous superheroes or create entirely new ones and put an end to the sinister plots of the most menacing supervillains in the Marvel Multiverse. Written by D616 System co-creator and New York Times bestseller Matt Vorbeck, and includes all new chapter opening splash pages by Mike Bowden, along with illustrations from Marvel's incredible army of artists. The core rulebook features all the rules you need to play, including quick character creation, bombastic combat, and scores of amazing powers. Plus, full profiles of dozens of Marvel's greatest heroes and villains. All you need is this book, 3 standard dice, and some friends. The Marvel Multiverse is calling. Come join the fun. The 320-page hardcover core book carries an MSRP of $59.99. There is no PDF currently available. Yes, you heard that correct. There is no PDF available for the hardcover core book. We're going to talk a little bit about this after I wrap up the news, because I find this to be very strange. You can score the Kindle edition through Amazon for $49.99. You can also get the Roll20 virtual tabletop edition over at Drive-Thru RPG for $49.99. Yes. So this is available. I did review the playtest. I thought it was pretty bad. I thought it was very poorly done. There were so many errors scattered throughout the book. I mean, wrong stat blocks. If I remember correctly, I think it was Iron Man had Spider-Man stat block or something. I mean, they were just so obvious. It's like, yikes. Anyway, we'll talk about this as part of my random musings tonight. But it is available. It is out. I wouldn't mind checking it out. $60 for the core book, though. Ooh, I'll discuss that in just a bit. All right, so that is it for the news tonight. I really didn't talk about Drive-Thru RPG at all. Even the bundle of holding. Normally, if you get the bundle of holding, you get those PDFs through Drive-Thru RPG. That Historica Arcanum is not available on Drive-Thru RPG, so you're actually getting the PDFs through their website. But don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are, say, going to visit Drive-Thru RPG to check out role-playing games that I have mentioned umpteen times on other shows, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. 5%. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, then you can always swing on by paypal.me/thegaminggang and make a donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda if you'd like. Or anything else. And a big thank you to Testy Trekkie for stopping by paypal.me/thegaminggang and making a not so small donation. So a big tip of the cap to all of you out there who use the banner ads and or visit paypal.me/thegaminggang. Thank you kindly. So, just talking about the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game. I gotta be honest, I don't know what they're thinking. So, okay, $60 core book. Yeah, that's par for the course now. And let's be honest, Wizards of the Coast is charging more for fewer pages. So there is that. And I did notice, if you go to Amazon, you can get the core book. I think right now it's like $35.99. You can get the physical hardcover book at Amazon for less than you can get the Kindle edition at Amazon. That is bizarre. It's like, what? You could get the brand new, right? It's not like, oh, well, it's used. So I thought that is very strange. Just like if you go to Drive-Thru RPG, they only have the Roll20 digital editions of this. There are no PDFs. There are some, I think there's a couple of new splat books that are also out. I think one of them is the X-Men and the other is Kang. I think the X-Men is kind of a source book. And I think it probably includes a lot of stat blocks for the various different mutants. And then I think the Kang book is a campaign, which should focus on the Avengers because Kang is one of their major villains. So I don't know. It's weird. I think one of them is available in PDF at Drive-Thru RPG. Everything else is just Roll20. It's like, don't you want people to play this? It's like, and I got to be honest, and I have nothing against Matt Forbeck. I don't know Matt, never met him. He's been involved in the hobby for a long, long time. I didn't think the core mechanics of this game were all that impressive in the playtest. Hopefully, things have been changed. But we also know that, some playtests, it's sort of like, yeah, we want your feedback. Please send us your feedback. Please fill out these questionnaires. Anthony Good says, Bundle of Holding has some good stuff right now, but they're saving their money for a new gaming store, which is opening right down the road from him tomorrow. Well, very cool. Hopefully they're a good, friendly local game store, because that's not always the case, unfortunately. And I know some people sometimes will bust my chops because I'll talk about like online retailers, right? Like I said, Amazon.com, you can get that Marvel Multiverse core book. It's like $35.99. Whereas if your friendly local game store is carrying it, they're probably charging you $59.99. And people are like, oh yeah, you always talk about online, retailers and stuff like that. It's like, all I mention is Amazon. I don't mention anybody else by name. Sometimes I'll mention if I saw something at a really discounted rate, I won't tell you who had it, but I'll say, oh, I saw this online. I don't have anything against friendly local game stores, but I also have to point out, not every game store is friendly. I've talked about this before. When I lived in Arizona, there were 5 game stores, and out of the 5 of them, there was only one that I thought actually went out of their way for their customers. 2 of them were like, they didn't even want to be in business. But I'm not gonna, rehash that, because I wouldn't be shocked if some of those stores are no longer around or were sold off. But just because you've got a game store in your neighborhood doesn't mean, if they're, let's be honest, if they're assholes, and there are people running game stores who are assholes, you don't need to support them. So I know somebody's probably going to comment in the comment section, oh, you're talking bad about friendly local game stores. No, I'm not. I'm talking about unfriendly local game stores. All right. Madman says they're not a fan of Amazon right now. They literally almost killed him. They misrepresented an item and sent something that he's severely allergic to. Shit. Hopefully you're all right. Man. Scott B. Smith says, Lord, there was a time when I could have practically written an X-Men source book. Those days are long past. Maybe they're days of future past. Jack Hanks says that the Historica Arcanum first volume is extremely beautiful and creative. It's well written. The art is the style of Middle Eastern artwork. Yeah, I like it. Like I said, it looked pretty impressive. Really, really does. And you're getting, at least this is just a guess, right? You're getting a non-Western kind of vibe, not just to the setting, but the approach to role-playing games is what I would guess as well. And sometimes, I've pointed out some European role-playing games are kind of odd mechanically. Yeah, I'm looking at you, the dark eye. But the mindset can be pretty interesting and can be very unique when compared to what we see, especially here in America. So, Flaming Heron says, Jeff is here Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. The jokes are just a bonus. Yeah, because they're not necessarily any good. So there's that. Warren Rollins is hanging with us tonight. Welcome aboard. Says, I don't know how I would express the culture. I need a lot of help with that to DM this historical Arcanum game. Do a little historical research is what I would probably recommend. I tend to listen to a lot of audiobooks. I listen to them when I go to sleep or when I'm like putting stuff together for the show and things like that. And I listen to all different stuff. In fact, I'm in the midst of a history of the Renaissance right now, because that is an era that I'm not all that well versed in. Tessie Trekkie says, Jeff, you'd be one of the best dad joke makers in the world. I don't know. I'm not a dad. I guess I'd be like, you know, I don't know. So Scott B. Smith with a super chat. Thank you very much. All right. So we're going to be diving on into Rultmoork in just a few moments. I'm pumped to check this out. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
Hi, folks. I'm Rico.
Oh, Nacho.
He's Peppy.
See,
You can find us at the concession stand in the lobby.
Along with all sorts of other tasty goodies.
see. Rico's Nachos, a refreshingly new and different snack discovery. Chock full of high-quality ingredients, crisp, fresh tortilla chips, covered with creamy aged cheddar cheese, topped off with zesty jalapeno pepper rings. Rico's Nachos, out of sight.
Remember, folks, we're the new star at the snack bar. Rico's Nachos, a new taste treat you can't beat.
See. Rico's Nachos, on sale at the snack bar now.
Oh, the commercial again. Time to get myself a stag beer. Wish someone were here to enjoy it with me. Why, Bottomley, I didn't hear you come in. Take off your hat. I'll get another stag. Oh, by George, stag always brings them best together.
Rock-a-bye, baby, in your cradle so fluffy. I can sleep, too, 'cause I drink Wilkins decaffeinated coffee.
Well, I'll be a monkey's uncle.
Yeah, Monkey's Uncle. New stunt race day with a monkey business name. Spread the stunts out every place. Make it tough to win the race. Run wild, Monkey's Uncle. Wind the timer, run and take the stunt that says be a snake. It's great, Monkey's Uncle. Time is going tick, tick, tick. Do a rooster who is sick. Cock-a-doodle choo. Run wild, Monkey's Uncle. Hurry, hurry, do those tricks for the monkeys out of ticks. Run wild, Monkey's Uncle. Time, now's your turn to show your speed. Do more stunts and take the lead. Run wild, Monkey's Uncle. Catch a fish and give a toot. Be an owl who cries. It's fun, Monkey's Uncle. Time, wiggle, waddle, quick, quick, quick. Do the build a tower trick. 12 stunts, just 3 tries. Case of tie spin, monkey's eyes, and you're a Monkey's Uncle. It's wild! Complete with stunt mats, cards, horns, clickers, tricks, spinner, and monkey timer. From Transagram, where the fun comes from.
Oh, Magoo, you've done it again. Melwinius from York is with us in chat. We got a good chat going tonight, everybody. Thanks for stopping on in. Tessie Trekkie says that Wilkins ad was objectively terrible. Yeah, they're not all winners. You know what? I don't think I've shared that one before. I know, I'm running out of originals. Pretty soon we're going to start seeing Wilkins and Wonkins shilling for other companies. So I did share a community coffee ad with them because it was the brand X. It's actually one of my favorites. It's when it's like, want a cup of community coffee? And Wonkins says, no, I'll have brand X. And Wilkins brands him. It's like, yeah. Melanie says, yeah, games have evolved quite a bit. Yes, from Monkey's Uncle. Flaming Heron says those kids are off their Ritalin. Nice. All righty. Tonight, I am going to unbox and dive on into the box set for Rultmoork, which is a 5e D&D adventure from AAW Games. The adventure is written by Jonathan G. Nilsson, and this set is available right now. It does carry an MSRP of $129.99, Now, if you only want the hardcover, that carries an MSRP of $49.99, or you can grab just the PDF for $32.99. Do want to point out the PDF is available from the AAW Games website. So let's swing on over to the other camera, because here I've got the box set. A few things I do want to mention before we jump on in here. First of all, the fine folks over at AAW Games were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this coverage with you. These days, it's very important that you know that. Also, this is an adventure. So if you're a player and you're hoping that your dungeon master is going to pick up Rultmoork to run, keep in mind there's going to be some spoilers. I don't know anything about this adventure, but we are going to see some things in the book. There are also standees as well, figure flats, you know. So you might want to tune out if you are a player. Of course, if you're a dungeon master, you might want to get a little closer to the screen to see if this sparks your interest. All right, let me get the shrink wrap off of here, and then we'll take a look at the back. So I had to chuckle. So I want to say it was Wednesday at the Indianapolis Convention Center. I had just picked up my press pass, and I was walking down the hall, and I heard somebody saying, excuse me. And usually when somebody, you know, is saying that, I assume they're not talking to me. They're talking to somebody else, right? So I wait. Well, it turned out it was Jonathan G. Nelson from AAW Games, and they're like, I know you. Remember I told you it seemed like that was like what many people who were stopping me at Gen Con would say. They're like, I know you. And I'm like, you do? So he had invited me to come over to the AAW Games booth to do an interview and talk about Rultmoork and some of their other releases that they've got. And then when I popped over there, I think I scheduled it for Friday, he was under the weather. So I ended up interviewing Tilo Graf, I believe was his last name, if I remember correctly. So I am very intrigued by Rultmoork, and I'll read part of what's on the back here. According to legend, water once sprung forth from Rultmoork's spire, blessing the land with life. Now the land is dry, the ancient site in ruins, and a wondrous water clock is stagnant. It is up to the adventurers to defeat the ancient evils within Rultmoork, restore the water clock, and bring life back to the land. Explore wasteland ruins and uncover mysterious clues to the past in this adventure for 4 to 6 characters, starting at levels 5 through 7 and concluding at levels 8 through 11. Then it talks about different aspects of this, but we are going to jump on in and see for ourselves. So as I mentioned, I think this contains a hardcover book. So we do see we've got 2 sets of dice, as well as some plastic gems, tokens. So we've got green, and we have blue. And I got to point out, they have 4 6-sided dice. Yes, in each of these. Very nice. Because one thing that drives me nuts is when you get a cool set of dice and they give you 1 6-sided die. It's like, yeah. What was on the inside cover of the box? Anthony Good would like to know. There you go. That's on the inside of the box. It looks as if this is the spire. That might be a way to get to the spire. And it looks like we've got some different runes on this disc or dial. So that is what's on the inside cover. So we've got the blue dice. And we got little drawstring bags for these in the matching color. And then we've got the green dice. And I believe the theme of the colors is stagnation and flow, if I remember correctly from the interview. So pretty nice. They're not just solid colors. There's a bit of a design to them. All right, so we're going to take some of this stuff out. These are handouts. Take a look at some of the handouts. We're not going to look at everything, but I do want to give you a really good feel for what is in this. So these are the figure flats, as I mentioned, the standees. So put that off to the side there too. And then, like I said, I thought it was a hardcover in here. And then that is the bottom of the box. And that must be after you restore the water clock. Because if you notice the difference here, and then there's actually, looks like a Fae up here. Nice. Pretty cool. We're going to save the book for last. So I'm going to put that off to the side for right now. So first thing we'll take a look at is we'll take a look at these standees. I am going to share a link in the show notes because there is actually a soundtrack for Rultmoork, and it's not a 30-minute soundtrack. It's not a 60-minute soundtrack. It's not an hour and a half. It is 3.5 hours. So there is that. I believe there's also there might be a code or something in here for virtual tabletop, because I thought that was part of the box set as well. So we have these creatures are weavers, the listener, stone troll, the flow conductor, oh, so on this side we don't have any mention of what they are. I would look to, I wonder if that would get covered up with a little stand if you have the bases. Because I don't like my players to know what things are called. I just don't. So even after they've encountered something like, say, goblins, I don't tell them they're goblins. Because when the characters are starting off, I kind of run role-playing games where my starting characters, especially like fantasy role-playing games, they don't know everything about the world. They're coming from, an orphanage or a farm or a little village and things like that. So if they eventually find out they're goblins or kobolds or lizard men or whatever, that's fine. But I don't just, oh, these are lizard men. So we got those. Looks like we've got a bunch of NPCs here. Humanoids. So we've got some cultists. I think that might be one of the big bads there. And then we've got guardians. Look like skeletons. So we got more weavers. Another flow conductor, except these are green. A rock hatchling. That's cool. I like that artwork. The Watcher. Hey, he's not bald. What? Dope. And then here we also have More undead. Stagnant dead. Pretty solid. And the cardstock is pretty thick on these. So, get that out of the way. So let's take a look at some of the handouts. So these are, looks like they're new spells or items. Sorry, I take that back. These are magic items. Oh, and then we've got, this is kind of cool. We've got some images to share with the players. I'm going to take a guess. Yep. So there is, this looks like that dial that we see in the inside of the box with the language. So this looks like it's kind of maybe like supposed to be a decoder. Now, when I interviewed Tilo, he was talking about like Tomb of Horrors and how, you know, this is like really, you know, more intense than Tomb of Horrors. And I even mentioned, I'm not a fan of Tomb of Horrors. I've never been really a fan of kind of like funhouse dungeons and stuff like that. And I will point out that Tilo had mentioned that there were no save or die or save or lose kind of aspects to the adventure. So Warren Rollins is in chat with us, and Coco B has arrived as well. Welcome to you both. Hopefully, I think I've said hello to everybody who's hanging out in chat tonight. So you got the Token of Vasi. This drop of crystallized and clear fresh water is cool and refreshing to the touch. It seems to consistently flow to and fro, almost eager to slide back into your hand. You can make a ranged or melee attack with a Token of Vashi as a bonus action or by using your reaction to something happening. If you target and hit a creature infused with Vasi's powers, the token might have additional effects. And you can drink it, quenching the daily water requirement of one creature. Because remember, this is supposed to be a desolate land, that the water clock doesn't work anymore. So, some more images here. So we've got quite a few handouts here. And then, like I said, I think this is our big bad here. And we've got a map. Oops, upside down. Kind of cool. Get the 3D image there. There we go. You saw that on the inside of the cover as well. So that is the spire. That is, I believe that is Rultmoork, I should say. So as I mentioned, there are quite a few handouts. And it looks like we got some pre-gens. So we'll take a peek at Thomas, half-elf priest of Vasi. Thonmar, it's another priest. So I wonder if these are NPCs? No, I think these are pre-gens. But they're all indicated as priests of Vasi. Okay. Well, we'll find out when we take a peek inside the book. But as I mentioned, quite a lot of handouts here. So we've got that. Warren says, if you have a bunch of overeducated history and art history majors in your group, they will love this adventure. they will get it, every clue and understand the visual iconography. So here we've got the book. So let's dive in. So we're not going to look at each and every page, but I want to give you a really good feel here. So there we go. Helograph. Got quite a few artists as well. So other contributing authors were, outside of Jonathan G. Nelson, was Thomas Baumbach, Helograph, and Tim Hibbets. As above, so below. Solitary and solemn it stands, an anomaly set apart from the wind-blasted mountain range beyond. Almost cylindrical and ragged, rock formation juts like a broken bone from the parched soil, rising to storm-blasted heights from the barren land. Its mottled gray-white rock, a distinct foreign body among the ochre crags. Its sole connection to the mountains remains a venerable bridge of weather-worn stone, ancient beyond compare, erected by architects, I should say, long turned to dust by the arid gales. Somewhere beyond this bridge, atop that foreboding rock, lie the eroded ruins of Fort Rultmoork, where, according to legend, the very land died to the sound of a single falling tear. Rultmoork is a challenging and deadly adventure intended for veteran players. Only the truly skilled and fearless should dare venture into this place. Make sure to read the entirety of the module carefully before running it. Rultmoork's challenges are complex and lethal. Some groups enjoy the constant looming threat of character death, of genuinely hard and brutal challenges. For these groups, the hardcore mode options in the sidebar allow the GM to increase the individual challenges of Rultmoork even further. Jeez. So we get a history of Rultmoork, ways to enter. I like the artwork throughout. So we've got a map here of the ruins. I was like, oh, page stuck together? No. We actually have a couple of bookmarks. There we go. Paper stock's pretty decent. It's thicker than what we get from Wizards of the Coast. As you can tell, it's got a little bit of treatment to it, so there is a bit of a sheen. The Great Clepsydra. We saw the handout of that. And the dungeon. Let's see what we've got. So here we have the Dungeon of Rultmoork. So dungeon dressing, lighting, none. Sounds, dust and pebbles falling. Just say, it's got to be a lot of dust if you can hear that. Scraping of bone on stone, eerie silence. Distant winds rushing around the spire's exterior. Smells, dry stone, ancient dust, mineral-rich earth. Sights, blue-gray tiles, thin cracks in tiles and walls. Decay and dilapidation. And the ceilings are 40 feet. Talking about water barriers, encounters. So it looks like the stagnant dead are some random encounters that you're going to run across. So it looks as if we've got quite a lot of information on each room. So this is 3-2, Vassi's Stern Judgment. An ancient stone statue depicts a robust woman in plate armor, armed with a bottle, aspergillum, and shield. Oh, battle. I'm like, I was like, what? Wait. Eternally guarding this room. The stern woman's armor and shield predominantly display Vassi's holy symbol. It's kind of funny. You probably don't see it on camera, but the kind of the angle I've got this sitting in, I'm getting a little glare off the page. Because normally you'd be reading, like that. Tentacles in the shadows. So this, I do not believe this is a mega dungeon by any stretch. Because here we're like dungeon room 5. So the thing that I wonder about is, running an adventure like this at the table when you've got all this detail about various different rooms. And of course, you're not going to want to take a highlighter to this. So Warren Rollins says, notice, read aloud text all over. The rooms are not too long, so this is much easier to run than Scarlet Citadel. Okie doke. And then we've got our different appendices. So we've got Magic of Rultmoork, Vassi, Tear of the Eternal Bath. At the dawn of the world, when the elements collided to create Aventure, the cosmos shed a single tear that such pain and strife was necessary for creation. Whether Vassi is the cosmos or the tear, the creator or the healer, her faithful cannot say. She sees the necessary of balance in all things, but she is also the balm against struggle, want, and ruin. Vassi watched the shard of the sun scorch its path across the earth. She saw the burning fields and forests, and she sent the soothing rains. As gods war and the world bleeds, Vassi teaches mercy to the strong and brings strength to the weak. Vassi's faithful are often loners dedicated to uplifting those who struggle for survival, especially those in harsh, bereft environments. A caretaker of a desert oasis, the guardian of a river's spring, or a green thumb in the deep rainforest are all followers of Vassi, whether they know it or not. Shrines and temples built to Vassi are found in places where desolation has been tamed, or amid barren wastelands awaiting the arrival of a blessed cultivator. Then it looks like we've got some stat blocks for some of the NPCs. Looks like kind of a bestiary as well, right? So there we got our flow conductors, the green and the blue. So I do notice we do have different sections that are kind of highlighted with blue, and then we have green. And I think the blue is flow, and I think the green is the stagnation. Stone troll. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so flow mode, stagnation mode. So there we go. We'll have to find out what exactly the deal is with modes between the two. So it looks like we've got quite a bit here in the bestiary. Then we have visions of the past. So I think that you have the option of actually having your players role play as priests of this deity in the past, which I thought is kind of interesting. I've seen that in some adventures before. Reign of Terror is a great example for Call of Cthulhu. where the players actually they're Roman centurions, if I remember correctly. And then, of course, in the main campaign, that's during the Reign of Terror, during the French Revolution. All right. And then we have Doomed Priests of Vashi, or Vasi. I think it's Vasi, Vasi. However you want to do it. You know me. I'm great at mispronouncing fictional people, places, and things. So here we've got our handouts, which we already saw quite a few of these. So, of course, you would have these in the book because not everyone is going to be picking up the box set. Right? And then here we've got, I believe these are pre-gens. So, because there are 6, and this adventure is for 4 to 6 players. So there we go. All right. That is Rultmoork from AAW Games. So we've got the cool illustrated box. We've got the standees or figure flats, whatever you want to consider those. We've got the handouts. We've got the book and 2 sets of dice. And of course, I'll have to look a little closer to see if there's something in here about the virtual tabletop, because I thought there's supposed to be virtual tabletop elements that are part of the box set. Now, I could be wrong. I could be absolutely wrong, but just kind of curious. So Warren Rollins says, I run this after LMOP, where the town is complaining about an extended drought for level 1 to 5, and then send them up the dwindling river into Rultmoork. Malwinia says they're thinking about getting the classic 2-inch box for Call of Cthulhu after seeing my unboxing. There's a lot in there. There really is. I'll talk about that in just a second. Let's wrap up with this. So once again, this box set is available right now. It carries an MSRP of $129.99. If you want to just grab the hardcover alone, that carries an MSRP of $49.99. Or you can just grab the PDF for $32.99 over at the AAW Games website. And of course, I will have a review of Rultmoork in the very near future. So stay tuned. All right, so Mel Winnies is talking about the classic Call of Cthulhu 2-inch box. I will point out, to me, I think it's really cool for the nostalgia of it. And of course, obviously, you can still run Call of Cthulhu from that first edition. I mean, the game hasn't changed radically over the 7 editions. It really hasn't. You're still looking at the roll under percentile dice as your core mechanic. Yes, granted, the resistance table is a little tricky for some people. But what I will say is some of the adventures have not aged well. And just going through some of the, and I was doing the classic Cthulhu files, and I was doing, I can't remember the campaign now, but I got to the point where the final 2 or 3 adventures were actually kind of crappy for the campaign. I remember running them, but I remember just kind of completely seat of the pantsing the end of the campaign. Shadows of Yog-Sothoth, if I remember correctly, is what it is. But as something really cool for your collection, oh yeah, it's awesome. It's excellent. But as something that you might want to run like all of the adventures from. So Melania says, yeah, you did point that out with Yuggsosthoth. So it's more of a sandbox. Yeah, there's like one adventure I just threw out, and I would still throw out part of the campaign because it's just there to kill characters. And it's very interesting. I love Call of Cthulhu. I think everybody who watches the Gaming Gang channel knows I love Call of Cthulhu. It's pretty obvious. It's my favorite role-playing game. I've run it for over 40 years. But it's very interesting to see how the adventures have evolved. Where they, early on, first few years, probably the first 2-3 years, it had kind of a D&D feel to it. To some of the adventures where it was like, you know, back in the day when D&D was kind of like, oh, a lot of dungeon masters were, you know, it's me versus them. I never ran role-playing games like that. And it was right about the time when Massive Nyarlathotep came out, where we started to see a radical change, where the writing for Call of Cthulhu Adventures changed quite a bit, where they didn't share that same sort of kind of presentation as you would see with like the AD&D adventures and stuff like that, like the modules and stuff. So, but yeah, I definitely love Call of Cthulhu. And I love the fact that the fine folks over at Chaosium Inc. were kind enough to give me that 2-inch classic Cthulhu box, because I don't have any of that stuff. Some of it is actually over at Elliot's house. He still has like the original, my original first edition box and book and everything that went with it. But I gave it to him years and years ago. So Kevin King says, interesting contrast between the art layout and design work for this AAW Games product and say the new Giants book from Wizards of the Coast. Wonder how long before they notice smaller companies are better. What do you think, Wizards of the Coast hasn't figured that one out yet? Yeah, just wait. I'm going to review the practically complete guide to dragons. It ain't going to be good. I feel sort of bad. Well, I mean, I'm not going to savage it. But the reality is, it's not really a D&D kind of release. Just like Art and Arcana, which is actually a pretty cool Dungeons and Dragons book. It's not a game book. Neither is the Practically Complete Guide to Dragons. It's not a game book. But I think it's being promoted as if it is. Where it's almost like a kid's book devoted to the dragons of D&D. So, I mean, as just kind of a cool art book sort of thing, I mean, it's fine. It's all right. But to have it being kind of presented as, oh, it gives you all this information you need to know about dragons and that for D&D. No, not at all. Flaming Heron says, don't feel bad, Jeff. It needs to be said. On Tuesday's show, I'll talk a little bit about being a reviewer and the responsibilities you actually have as a reviewer, or at least how I see it. And, you know, I hate the term influencer, but as a reviewer, you do influence people into either possibly purchasing or possibly staying away from purchasing a product. And that can have a large effect on a small game company. So, you know, the way I look at it, you can't half-ass it. as a reviewer. And you gotta keep in mind, sometimes my personal opinion is it's better for me just not to do a review of something that I think is not very good, at least doesn't do it for me, as opposed to being like, oh yeah, ha ha, I'm gonna savage this. I don't like doing bad reviews. I just don't. Usually. There's been a couple I've done that were actually fun, but those were more like written reviews. So, Madman says, wait, you said Tuesday instead of Monday. I know, all week long. Yes, as Flaming Heron says, don't jinx it. All week long, or did I screw up on Tuesday? I don't know. I thought all week long I've actually been on the money. I haven't said, hey, on Monday show, because there isn't a Monday show. Alrighty then. Melania says, fight against Cthulhu. Yes. And one of these days I should probably do like a standalone video talking about how to approach Call of Cthulhu with the knowledge that H.P. Lovecraft probably would not be somebody that most people that you would want to game with would want to game with. So, but then again, I am also one of these people that I don't believe that you can take individuals out of their historical timeline and apply our modern sensibilities and morals and things like that to them. So I don't know. One of these days I might do a video. I kind of get the feeling that I might get a lot of pushback on it though. So, because I personally think as H.P. Lovecraft got older, I think he did open up his horizons more. That he was not as narrow-minded and racist. And strangely enough, he did display, anti-Semitic tendencies, but he was married to a Jewish woman. So it's sort of like, I don't know. Don't know. Kevin King says, pit Game Master's Book of Legendary Dragons against the new Wizards of the Coast book. I got to be honest, I'm not familiar with Game Master's Book of Legendary Dragons. I don't know. Sounds like that'd be maybe from Battle Zoo. Roll for Combat, I should say, part of their Battle Zoo line. All right, that is it for this time out. If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. Because it'll not only, as I reach for something here, inform you when the live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. It'll also inform you when I upload other videos, such as my upcoming review of Dragonbane and my first look at Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay Up in Arms. Got some goodies coming this weekend. Stay tuned. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on the YouTube channel, such as Sammy's written reviews. Don't see him around here. Just shared 3 reviews very recently. So check him out. Of course, you don't have to check him out. I'm just recommending that. Come on, you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. If you were watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, tip of the cap, a bigger thank you to you, because not only are you keeping me company, you're keeping each other company while I'm focused on taking a first look at something. But of course, I know a lot of you out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. I really do appreciate you taking time out to watch any of the videos here on the channel. I really, truly do. So I will be back on Tuesday. We're going to be diving on into Die RPG from Rowan, Rook, and Decard. This is created by Karen Gillen, who I interviewed at Gen Con, if you haven't checked that out. So this will be on the agenda for Tuesday's show. Everybody enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it happens to be in your neck of the woods. Enjoy the rest of the week. Have a great weekend. And once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Until I see you next time, here's hoping all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.